How's it going, Commanders? So, this video is the next part of the Frozen Fjords Hero Loadout. Last time we spoke about soldiers, now we are going to focus on the tankiest of heroes, the Constructors. Little recap, Constructors have the zone modifier Super Constructors, where our build's cost is reduced to 66%. Melee impact damage is increased, and our kinetic overload reduces our cooldown by 4 seconds. The downside is that all our weapon damage is reduced, so only focus on the traps and our melee impact damage. Speaking of, that is what our first hero build is about. This Constructor build focuses solely on trap damage as well as being a main support for your team. Starting with your commander, we have Mega Base Kyle, who comes with the commander perk Mega Base. This increases your base connectivity by a range of 3 tiles. That is a huge reach, and one that is needed since we have a special team perk. Supercharged Traps is surprisingly a very useful team perk, where every trap that is affected by our base is increased by 8.5% per constructor. Not only does that mean that we can expand our traps further away, doing an insane amount of damage thanks to Mega Base Kyle, this means that with every support hero we have that is a constructor, if we have 5 constructors in total, that is a whopping 42.5% damage buff to all our traps. Imagine, let's say, you have a mini boss that is trap vulnerable, meaning no matter what you do or what weapons you use, you will not tick away at its health at all. But if you put a couple of broadsides around it, affected by our base, that mini boss is gone in an instant. It's just beautiful. Don't forget though, this is for traps that do damage. It won't increase the longevity of the traps like a sound wall or wall lights. They will still do the same duration of their stuns. But if you want to get some big bang for your bucks, save up your materials for ceiling drop traps. Those things do an insane amount of damage. Getting back to the topic, with our support hero, we got Warden Kyle first, who comes with base MD. Allies standing on structures affected by your base, again, good reason why we have Mega Base Kyle as our commander, is healed for 22.5 base health and 2 energy every 1 second. And the effect continues for 3 seconds after moving off your structure. This is an amazing hero to have if you are with your friends playing Ventures, because this means you can keep them alive for much longer, as well as give them their energy back to continue doing insane damage with their abilities. A minigun loadout will have their energy back in no time at all, as well as an Outlander with their Teddy build. But as a constructor, our main focus is to protect the objective. Best way to do that is to keep husks away from said objective. In comes the Ice King with his perk Frozen Castle. Enemies standing on structures affected by your base, again another good reason to run Mega Base, are snared by 15%. This means they will be slowed down and unable to reach your objective faster, which also means spending more time getting hit by your teammates or your traps. But let's say you are just starting Ventures and you do not have any traps at all. Well, you can use Heavy Base Kyle with his perk Feel the Base. Eliminating enemies standing on structures affected by base charges your base. After 30 charges, your base emits an explosion which knocks back enemies and deals 39 base energy damage in a 3-tile radius. Huge extra damage to do to any pesky husks that get past the line of defense, plus it's just a lot of fun to watch them get knocked back. Plus, it's great for crowds of husks. Power Base Nox gives us power modulation, where structures affected by your base is healed for 4% of max health every 10 seconds. This means your base is more fortified, giving extra health, which is beautiful when facing against bigger threats like smashers. These buildings are able to heal almost on par with the damage they are being dealt. And lastly, to do a little extra damage, which is always a good thing to have, we have Thunder Thora with her perk Electrified Floors. Enemies standing on structures affected by base take 12.7 base energy damage every 5 seconds. So, not only do you have your supercharged traps, not only do you have Ice King keeping the husks almost in place, not only do you have heavy base Kyle causing explosions with his base, but you have Thunder Thora literally zapping these husks into oblivion, all while keeping your team healed and energized. This build is the ultimate buff for your teams and a nightmare for the Husk Horde. But let's say you want to buff your teams more and not focus on the objective at hand. Maybe you have another constructor running this build we just spoke about earlier. Well, have no fear. We have another build that will buff the damage of your team as well as yourself. For our commander, we are still keeping Mega Base Kyle, but for our team perk, we are using Boom Base. Your base will blast Steel Wool music, increasing your allies' damage by 12% and crit rating by 15 points, meaning they will do the max damage possible. This also means if your team is close to your base, they are able to just unload everything onto the Husk Horde, unleashing insane damage to the enemy line. But what about our support team? Well, Boom Base needs 2 band member heroes, so we're going to use 2 that really won't be useful unless you're getting into the fight as well, and you're rarely going to. First off, we have Breakbeat Wildcat with her perk Battle Beat. Eliminating 10 enemies in 9 seconds grants Rocking Rift, which increases your damage by 50% and melee attack speed by 32%. Not bad honestly, but remember our con for Super Constructor? Our weapon damage is decreased, so this buff would more than likely just put us on par with a normal hero. Our next band hero is Mainstage Quinn, where harvesting metal gives us sub wafers, and when we eat a wafer we get Rocking Rift, which again grants us that 50% extra damage and 30% melee speed. This is just to fill in the slot, but it's still useful to have if you have a good melee weapon to use. Just start swinging. And we have the other few support heroes as before. Base MD to help with your team, very important. Thunder Thora to do some extra damage, but we do have Base Kyle to increase our building health by 28%. This is a little extra to help us out because remember, we are still constructors and our main focus is to build around the objective. If you want a build that will keep the enemies at bay long enough for you and your team to do some intense damage, not just with traps, but with your abilities, as well as give you time to save your defenses, then Ice King is the perfect commander for you. Unlike other constructors, his main focus is to hold back the enemy line, so no damage buff is really necessary. That is why our team perk will be Recycling. This will give you a bit of your building mats back after a while. That way, you can just relax and farm your base to your heart's content. You do want your base to reach out far enough to affect the husks that walk around your base and get frozen, so we're going with Mega Base Kyle as a support this time. Unlike his commander perk, the standard perk only gives us an extra 1 tile reach, but that's still plenty good to defend your base. Warden Kyle is still on the support so you can heal and give your team energy while they defend the base. Remember, this is a stalling hero build, so you won't be doing much damage. Your team will. It's best to make sure they stay in the fight. Power Base Nox is next with Power Modulation, again which heals 4% of max health every 10 seconds, which is great because when a husk is frozen, it gives the builds enough time to heal from the damage they took. You want to increase the heals your builds take though, so you use Lofty Architecture from Base Kyle, who increases your building health by 28%, a pretty big buff if you ask me. And lastly is Thunder Thora for that little extra damage you can give to the husks, and seeing as how they are snared and frozen in place, that means they stay on the electrical floors for much longer, taking more damage. This last constructor build is one of my favorites if you want to be in the fight instead of building around and putting in traps. The commander we got is Hotwire with his perk Overcharge. While in Going Constructor, each hammer strike causes chain lightning, dealing 120 base nature damage to about 3 nearby targets. Raising your Going Constructor shield for 2 seconds though overcharges your next swing, causing each struck enemy to chain 120 base energy damage up to 8 nearby enemies. This basically means this hero is built for this season since all water husks are weak to nature damage. Each swing chain lightnings to 3 nearby husks, and you swing pretty quickly too. Not only that, if you want to clear more husks out, you can raise your shield, which blocks oncoming damage. This doesn't mean you don't take damage though. You still will, but you gain another 675 armor to your hero, meaning the damage is lessened. Still not bad. The cooldown for this build though is insane, a long 100 seconds till you are able to bring it back up again. But that's why we have our team perk Happy Holidays, which reduces our cooldown from 100 to 60. Still long, but don't forget what our modifier said for Constructors. Triggering Kinetic Overload reduces active cooldown by 4 seconds. That means as long as we swing at a husk with a melee weapon and stagger them, our Kinetic Overload activates, dealing 25 base energy damage to nearby husks. Basically, a small explosion. Not only that, whenever we crit with a melee weapon, it increases the impact damage by 10% for 5 seconds up to 5 times. That is a 50% impact damage increase where we will be knocking these husks left and right relentlessly. Our cooldown for our Going Constructor will be almost gone if we swing a good enough melee weapon. We do want to stay alive in the fight though, so our first support hero is Arlene Iza with her perk Monster Smash. Increases life leech with melee attacks and Going Constructor up to 15% of our missing health. So, the lower our health, the more we heal. Simple as that. Still, 60 seconds is a long cooldown, and our Going Constructor already lasts 16 seconds. So, during our Going Constructor, the cooldown will reach 44 seconds left till we get our ability back. That is where Director Riggs comes in with Direct Threat. Going Constructor eliminations extend the duration by 1 second for a max of 10 eliminations. That is a huge extension, meaning we only have to wait 34 seconds till we can use Going Constructor again. But we can reduce that cooldown even more with the hero in the event item shop right now, Black Knight Garridan. He comes with the perk Knight's Impact, where he increases the impact of our hardware weapon by 33 points, meaning we will be staggering husks left and right while activating our Kinetic Overload, reducing our cooldown even more. Not only that, eliminations with our hardware weapons reduce the cooldown of our ability by another 1 second. So, get a good hardware weapon and start swinging. Bombsuit Kyle and Warden Kyle are the last support heroes, and they do help, but you can switch Bombsuit Kyle to someone else if you want. His perk Bombsuit just increases your armor by 22 points, which isn't much, but it's definitely something to help you keep alive a bit longer and reduce the damage you take. We are still a constructor, so we still have a base. So Warden Kyle still works with us. You don't even need to put your base on the objective. If you build floors all around the area and place your base in front of the Husk Horde, you and your teams can get healed and get energy back pretty quickly, making you almost invincible. And that is my hero loadout for Constructors for this season of Ventures. I've honestly been having so much fun with Hotwire. This beast of a constructor is such a crowd clearing monster this season. He still has a little bug where your chain lightning may not work as intended, and instead you'll basically just swing your hammer with no chain lightning at all. But your other ability, where if you hold your shield up for 2 seconds to overcharge your next swing, should still work. Hopefully Epic does fix this bug soon, but other than that, if you guys like my content, why not leave a like? And if you guys want to get more updates regarding the game, why not drop a follow? Until then, as always, stay safe and game on!